Do a little a sync thing here for all of our microphones.
For all of our microphones? Are we ready?
Okay, ready?
One, wait.
One, two.
There we go.
Yeah.
Lucy, actually, before you start, do you think you can frame a little bit of that window out? We're getting a lot of shots.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, it's on her.
Do you want it completely out or is that
As little as possible. I mean,
that look fantastic.
Beautiful.
There we go.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, we're good whenever you are.
Okay. All right, let's do it. Hello. I'm Lucy Jane Mukherjee. I'm a senior programmer with the Tribeca Festival, and I'm joined today by writer-director Lauren Hadaway and lead actor Isabelle from The Novice, which is making its world premiere with Tribeca in US competition. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you.
Thank you for making time for this. So, Lauren, I know that The Novice was inspired by your own experience as a rower during your college years. Do you feel like you understand that period of your life a little better now that you've maybe
Yeah, I mean, I as I was in the rowing world, you're inside, you don't realize how obsessed you are with things, how sort of fucked up you are over things. It takes like getting out of it to really see what was for me a very traumatic 4 years in hindsight. And then once I graduated from school, it's like I wanted to tell a story about rowing for a long time, and I didn't really know exactly what to write. And then I also, grit and ambition and these sort of themes are really important to me. And I was thinking about how do I tell a story about all these different things. And then as I was like transitioning out of sound and trying to figure out what could be my first film, the advice you always hear is write what you know, what no one else can write. And I'm like, well, I know rowing, and I haven't seen a rowing movie. And so I don't know. I was actually in a blimp at a blimp factory in London for the reshoots of Justice League. Had nothing to do because we were waiting for the actors to come out and shooting ADR, like dialogue, voiceover stuff. So I started writing the screenplay in 2017. And for me, it was catharsis, honestly. Like it really helped me kind of, I essentially took 4 years of rowing and 10 years of coming of age and compressed it down to a year to write The Novice. And so for me, I don't know if I understand rowing or that time necessarily anymore, but I definitely did work through a lot of sort of obsessions and things that came with that whole time of my life. And hopefully now the world can can work through it too. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. And Isabelle, you capture Alex Bell's intensity so vividly, both mentally and physically. What was your process of getting into her skin?
I think the easiest part of the process was actually just getting obsessed with rowing, which was so easy to do because we had such a short...
so now you're hooked too.
Yeah, no, seriously, I mean, we had such a short period. I think it was a month after you cast me.
I think you had like 6 weeks. She was texting me. She was rowing like exercising 6 hours a day.
It was tons.
6 hours.
It was insane.
She had so much. She would text me like 3 a.m. from the Marina Del Rey, be like, Lauren, I'm here. And
I would wake up in the morning and go rowing basically from 5 to 8, and then I'd have an hour to like eat and sleep, and then I'd be back rowing until like 12, and then I would go in the evenings like 3 or 4 times a week and see a trainer so I could like physically look the part. And basically I just really kind of like fell in love with rowing, and it was like fun to kind of dive into that too with Lauren and like talk to her about like the blisters I was getting on my hands, and then also like the actual real injuries that I was suffering that rowers suffer, and like playing basically in this part. I mean, that was really kind of my entry point, was through rowing, and then the rest of it kind of seemed to fall into place rather quickly. I felt, I think I understand what it's like to love something so much that you feel like you're almost like strangling yourself and it, because of how passionate you are about something that you love. And so for me, actually doing this movie allowed me to leave that part of myself behind in this part. And it was kind of like the last time that I felt like I really was like, oh my gosh, like I have to do this, I have to be this kind of look in this kind of place, and this is how I want to be. But it was really like all for the best. I felt like we had such a great time filming, and then I wrote everything in the movie.
Yeah, she also would, before shooting, we would, have our long shoot days. She would get up early and go to the rowing tank, and the rowing coaches there were amazing. And I think Richard would.
Yeah, Richard would come with me.
Come and give her like lessons before, and then she'd be we had a whole week on the water, like a week on the water. You guys are on the water like 10 hours a day. And then on top of that, it was intense. And
I would go to the gym. I mean, they got me a membership at the gym at the college, and so I would finish work, and everyone's like, "You're going home?" I was like, "No, I have to go to the gym," because we still had the rest of the movie we had to film after we finished all the rowing scenes. But we started with those. Those were like the first ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing dedication. The film's world is predominantly female, which is really refreshing. How did you choose to present these athletes differently to what we usually see in movies about team sports?
Well, I think it's interesting. I've thought a lot about, with Me Too and everything coming up and trying to get more diversity and women and everything into the film world. I've thought about this sort of question a lot. And I think for me, the reason I think diversity is so important in getting different voices is because people just write what they know. And like, I was on a women's rowing team, and by default, that's like women are on the rowing team, and the coach, they can be women. And so it just happened to be that 95% of the cast were women. There was no effort on my part. And I think really the one place that, when I first started writing the story, the love interest of Danny, obviously it's a queer relationship. My first inclination when writing that was to write the character as a male. And I don't know why. It's compulsory heterosexuality, maybe because the way I grew up, I don't know. Even though I was a queer woman writing that at that moment, my first inclination was to write like a heterosexual love story, and it felt like weird and felt kind of forced. I didn't know why, and then it clicked, and I was like, oh well, it's not a man. But like, that's not true to me. That's not what it is. And so then we have this queer love story, and so now you have, I think, one male character. Oh, you had a Neil in the bed.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We had the frat boy too, but I think it just worked out that way. It was natural. It wasn't forced, and I think the rowing, the dynamics that you see, I think that's what's really interesting about women too. When we see men fighting, and I'm making a generalization here, but it's so often like men are aggressive and they fight and they destroy things. I think when women are upset and when they're challenged, when they're doing things the way that society or biology, whatever it is, we turn inward, we destroy ourselves. And I think you see that with Alex's journey, and I certainly know for myself and the women that I know in my life, like we really turn inwards and we sort of self-implode. And even too with the relationships and the team dynamics, it isn't like punching their faces, they're not punching each other, but there's this sort of Machiavellian thing happening on the team that I certainly experienced. And I love rowing, and but there's team dynamics that exist that are real, and I think anyone who's not delusional will recognize that. I hope so. Yeah.
Absolutely. When you were preparing to make the film, did the two of you talk about other cinematic characters that informed who Alex is?
I don't know if we did. I mean, I felt like we spent a lot of time getting to know each other and hanging out, and like, what I loved is not only did I feel like I was kind of diving into Alex and through rowing, but Lauren was such a huge part of that process, like every step of the way. She was saying, we were texting each other every single day. I was sending her videos of like what was going on while she was like scouting in Peterborough and picking the locations. And then when we finally kind of got on the ground there, it was like, we'd all kind of like become family, I think, already at that point. We didn't really talk about, like, did you feel like there were any influences that influenced? I mean,
well, I think I've always sort of referenced Whiplash and Black Swan to me, or the films I adore, and I'm sure we talked about that. But it's funny, I think, one thing when it came to casting and stuff, Isabelle was like perfect when I saw her auditions. And I think like I once heard, I think it was David Fincher, I heard a Q&A from him, and I told you this story and you hated it, but and I'm gonna get to that, but he said when you're casting someone, he likes to like look to the core of the person and see who they really are, because at the end of a 12-hour day when they're exhausted, Ben Affleck's not going to be Batman, he's Ben Affleck. And so you want to cast that person. And so I really, when he said that, that's one thing that's always stuck with me. And so when it came to casting like Amy, who plays Jamie, all the parts that she's played are sort of this like sweet girl or whatever. And I was like, and I know she's a great actor, and I actually like saw her years before, but whenever someone recommended me to her, and I actually looked at her Instagram and I saw how weird her Instagram was. And I was like, okay, I think this girl, like, she hasn't played this part before. Jamie, but I think she could do it because she's weird. And then we met and then we talked and like it clicked. And with Isabelle, the auditions came in. She was the only one who sent 2 scenes in. And I came to find out later, they were the 2 scenes that I had sent out to the casting world. Come to find out later that the casting people had only sent out 1 scene to the whole world. But Isabelle like naturally knew to do the second scene that I had included that no one else had done. So she had done 2 scenes. She did props in her audition. She had the sweat. She had the whole thing, and she read the one of the scenes like on the page. You can read it 2 different ways, but she like sensed what it was and nailed it and like hit the like the sort of like nuance of the character, and it was perfect. And so I saw this sort of like, oh, and she wrote me a letter. And so all this...
I did write her a letter. I wrote you a whole letter.
All this try hard, like she did all these, like she was like so obsessive and like determined and like such a like working hard to do all these things, which is Alex, right? And then I met her in person and she's sweet and bubbly and like, you know, we know her from Orphan. She's like killing people and like she knows like in the movies that you're known from, you're this evil character. And then I meet you in real life and you're so like peppy. And I told you this whole thing that David Fincher said, and you're like, I don't believe that. I don't think that. You know, I think you can do whatever you want. Meanwhile, she has like a binder out, and she's got like little like dividers and notes and all this stuff, and she's obsessive about this stuff. So she's like bubbly and whatever in a different way than Alex is, but she has like the determination and the sort of obsessiveness and that neuroticness and the drive and the grit and all the things that were in the character. So, yeah.
I think the letter, I honestly think the letter was something that I was so floored by the script because I hadn't ever read something like that really touched a chord with like, because truly, and it's true, like I have this like peppy, very carefree sort of attitude on a surface level, but underneath I really prepare a lot of stuff. When I work on projects or anything, my motto is like prepare to a point where I can go to work and forget all about what I did and not worry about it because it's already there. And so I really wanted to write a letter to Lauren about why she had to hire me, because I do long distance running, but not only that, but I had like done this whole race from Santa Monica to Vegas, and I wanted Lauren to know that like I'm the person who will be sweating and crying at the end of the day, and I can still have a good time. And I even sent you photos too. I sent you photos of me like crying in that race and stuff. I was like, I just knew that I could be real with Lauren and that she would understand. You know,
and I did.
The script was like that for me.
And you were that, and she was perfect and on set. And as like we were saying, the first week was on the water, and like my first week as a writer and director was on the water. And that was like, oh my God. And then it was so demanding and so whatever. And through the walkie-talkie, through like a blowhorn or whatever, through screaming out of my lungs.
Talking like in a boat, like, what? Turn around, what?
Yeah, but just, I think that Isabelle's sort of personality on set and that like energy, the sort of whatever, was really contagious to everyone. And I don't know, it was just such a demanding shoot. And you know, you always hear that, but physically, mentally, like weather, everything was so demanding. Just the amount of exercise, like you don't think like, oh, row 100 meters, okay, we're gonna do another take, okay, and then we're like take 17, like, oh, should we do this? And she's like, guys, but like I don't, it's just contagious, and I think the whole crew picked up on it. I mean, I certainly did. It was, so the letter was, it was true.
It was true.
The Fincher advice
it was
worked.
meant to be.
Yeah.
One of the things I so admire about this film is how it approaches queer identity, because it's not presented as anything that the character has to come to terms with, it's just a fact. And I'm wondering if either of you have references of films that have also approached queerness in that matter-of-fact way, because I actually couldn't think of any, and I'm just curious where that came from.
I think what I found interesting about that aspect of Alex was that it wasn't presented as like, here she is, a rower, and she's queer. It was like, this is the woman that she likes, and what's it matter who she, like, whether she's a man or a woman, like, what's it really matter, you know? And I think even still, like, we were playing with even that whole like one night frat stand or whatever. It's like, that's like something on her list of things to do, on her like obsessive list of like what to do at college. So it doesn't matter. It could have been a guy or a girl, but it just happened to be that dude. You know what I mean? So it really, to me, felt like an actual exploration of sexuality that people have when they're kind of discovering it within themselves. And I think even now, and I'm personally not queer, but you explained to me, we were talking about lots of different things, and I felt like Lauren really kind of helped, guide the story in a sense that it wasn't, Janice's character Danny is not like, it's not like they fall in love just because of one thing or another. It's like they just have this really like quick connection, and what they have is really special in its own way. Yeah,
and I think, I was also trying to, I feel like I have, it's funny because you asked that question, and I remember I watched something the other day, and I'm like, wow, this is like, they don't even mention that, it's not even a thing that they're gay, and I forget what it is because it's such a rare thing, but I remember thinking to myself, like, I wish I see this more. And it goes back to make the film, write the film that you want to see. And like, I spent the past year, my pandemic hobby has been learning French. So for a year I only watched French films, but in September, last September, I was like, okay, you can also watch things that are gay. So I started watching lesbian movies and whatever. And I love them, and I love the romance, and I love all that stuff too, but I really do miss that it's just like not a thing. And I think in life, like I'm not someone, I'm proud or whatever, but I'm not someone who identifies with my sexuality. Like I don't define myself as I'm a former rower, I'm a queer person, I'm a whatever, I'm an American. Like I am all those things, but that's not, like I don't define myself that way. Yeah. And I think also what I find, and I'm still sort of developing this whole line of thinking myself, but like I think generationally what we're seeing is really interesting. I think that, I'm a millennial, we have Gen Z, and I think, people who are older, generations above us, even 20 years ago coming out, like you really had to own your identity. You had to own it, you had to be whatever, you had to claim it. So the way that people define their sexuality who are 10 years older than me versus someone 10 years younger than me, I think it's really refreshing right now to see Gen Z. It's like sexuality seems so much more fluid. Like it's just, this is the person you like, this is the person you date. And I don't think we're there yet, especially not in the whole world, but like that's the kind of life that I want, and I hope that everyone can have, that it's not a big deal. And so, again, that's just what I wrote, and I didn't want it to make it a film. It becomes about the sexuality, like it's about this girl's obsessive journey and whatever, and this is the person she connected with, and again, writing true to myself, so, yeah.
Thank you. Now, the soundtrack is such a prominent part of the film. So I think we really must dedicate some time to talking about.
It's all her.
Can you share with the viewers at home the reasons behind your song choices?
Yes. So the first song hit me. I think Aldi La was the first song that I remember driving. I would listen to songs on repeat for hours at a time. Like I'm a little bit neurotic if you haven't seen the film. And this song clicked, and I was like, oh my god, this song's fucking like, this fucking song. And I had this whole vision in my head of like a foggy row and like a sunrise and the classy water and like everything. Basically, what you shot, like that was the first thing we shot. That was the foggy row, Aldi La. And it is exactly like what was in my fucking head, and it was brilliant, and it's like a dream come true. But like that just hit me, like something about when you're marinating on a story and obsessing over a story, like in it, like it just clicked, and I just had this idea. And I give the producers a lot of credit because I remember walking with them the day that we signed the option agreement. I was walking to them, I was like, hey guys, what do you guys think about playing this song? Like, and then we have this scene like this, and they're just like, okay, yeah. And so then that just sort of developed from there, and I started like made a Spotify playlist and added all these like 60 songs, and would obsess and like link onto the ones, the big three that I got, thank God, was Aldi La, Someday You'll Want Me to Want You, which is when she's the slow motion erg piece, and then I'm Sorry at the end when she's cutting herself. So those are my big three songs I really wanted, and that we got them. And for me, I chose those songs because to me, this is really a movie. There's a love story between Alex and Danny, yes, but that's not really the love story. The love story in this film is between Alex and rowing. And so I really framed, and we talked a lot about this too.
So much so.
Framed the story as a romance between her and the boat. And even talking with the composer about this too, like the music supervisor, where are we at in the film? What part of the romance are we at? In the beginning, it's like the first spark, you see it and you have this like crush and you're drawn to it. Then you have your first like romance and like, sort of clunky beginnings, and then you have your first fight, and then you have your first making love, which is the Someday You'll Want Me to Want You, and then your fight, and then the relationship turns toxic, and then you have the breakup at the end, which I think with the final song is like that's really about the breakup. So to me, this is a film like it's a sports movie, but it's not a sports movie. It's like it's a film about a romance. And that to me is what those songs mean. And I think I love punching the people in the face, and rowing is like beautiful sport, but it's fucking boring to watch the same thing over and over, right? Back and forth, back and forth. So every rowing scene was really, I was like, and I talked with Todd, the DP, about this a lot, and we talked about this, it was like every scene has an emotional component to it. And so that's how we tried to frame it visually and sonically and with the soundtrack, with your performance, with everything. And I'm really happy how it came out, actually. So
that was actually the first thing when you started setting up my rowing in the morning. Lauren sent me the playlist, and I think I listened to that playlist probably the entire shoot, because it really put me in that kind of like mind space. And I also could totally get Lauren's references when she's like, this is like the like, I'm sorry, Aldi blah 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 moment. We would be like talking about it, and it was like we all kind of were speaking the same language that whole shoot, you know.
Yeah,
that's amazing. It's so great to be able to have this insight for folks who've just finished watching the film. Thank you for sharing that. Lauren, this is your directorial debut. Now that you're armed with the experience of having made this film, how will you approach your second feature differently?
I don't know. I mean, it's I'm still a learning process of how it's all going, but I don't know if it's just, I think every film is so different. Every film is like a relationship with a new person. It's like, it's scary. I have something right now that I'm doing revisions on. I have a call later about going out with it. And it's still the same sort of process. You get excited and nervous and tingly about something, and then you're like, is this going to happen? Is this going to work out? And but each film is a different person. So I have no idea what I'm going to do differently. We'll see. I
love that.
I think, yeah.
Hire me again.
Yeah.
I'll do anything and anything with Lauren. I'm not even kidding.
I would strongly recommend Isabelle. She's she fucking does it.
And I would strongly recommend Lauren.
Good.
Yeah, good.
For the love fest. Isabelle, what gets you excited about a new role? What kinds of characters do you wish you saw more of coming your way?
It's a very good question. I like characters that you can really kind of dive into the journey with them. And I think that human stories and stories about people that are going through, a growth, a change, a romance with a boat, for example, but told from a perspective that you get to really kind of dive into that person's world and see the world through their eyes, I think allows us all to see each other on a more human level as people, that no one is just one sort of thing. I mean, Alex is not just a rower. She's not just somebody who's a rower dating a woman. It's like she has so many different complexities of like things that she wants to do in her time in college, balancing her scholarship, balancing her, her friends, foregoing all of her friends for her newfound love of rowing. And, I think it really humanizes people to a very base level where you can see that nobody really is defined by one thing. Everybody has so many different wells of emotion, and people are different with different people, and people are very different on their own. And I think when you can understand people's hurts and pains, you can also have love for them and understand where they are going and in their growth. So roles that really allow me to kind of dive into somebody's mind and take a swim in somebody else's psychosis, neuroses, life, like joys. I mean, that really always makes me excited as an actor, because I love nothing more than to leave myself behind for a few months and really live the world through somebody else's eyes, and then come back to myself with a new perspective.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much. Lauren, we'll close with you. Any parting words for the audience?
Oh God. Oh God. I don't know. I mean, I hope that I've done any rowers who are watching this. I hope that I've done the sport justice. I hope that I've scared a lot of people away from it who are thinking about it and are now like, I don't know. And I hope that the right people are going to be attracted to it by the sort of brutality that it can be. And I will also say, I guess I'll close on one thing for, anyone who might, aspire to be a writer-director, is when I was 15, I saw Kill Bill Volume 1, and I suddenly knew I wanted to be a director. Then I went to college when I was 18, I walked in and I was surrounded by all these guys, and they all like knew how to, all the lenses and the cameras, and they had all the like the Final Cut and this and that, and they were talking about all the short films they made, and I felt like, what am I doing here? I can't do this. So I sort of backed into a corner, and I diverged from my writing and wanting to be a director dreams at 18 into post-production, which I fucking love. And I, and I love my sound career. I love everything about it. I had such a unique background that way. But I really did get, imposter syndrome really fucked me up. And, but then when I got into sound is not a sexy career choice. So there's not a lot of like, there's not a lot of people do. I mean, there are, but it's just, and then when I get into it and I start working on these big films and with people that I really admire, and seeing these people who are doing amazing work and working with amazing writers and directors and sound people and editors and whatever. And the thing that you learn when you get into that world, which is a dream come true for me, first off, was like, these people are not like creative geniuses. They aren't. I know I can think of one person I really consider a creative genius, but everyone else is, they're just normal people. They work hard, they have an idea, they make mistakes, they figure it out. There's always problems, nothing's going perfect, it's always feeling like a disaster. And once I realized that, I was like, okay, I can write and direct. I think I can do this. And so November 2016, I decided 5 years, I'm going to transition into writing and directing. I'm going to do it. I made that, I remember, November 2016. So the fact that my film is now premiering, it's almost 5 years. I've made my first feature film. It's premiering at Tribeca, which is, I remember watching and reading about Tribeca when I was not watching because I lived in a small Texas town, but reading about it in the newspaper and things like that. Like, for me, it's a dream come true. So I would just say, like, watch out for the imposter syndrome, and like believe that we don't know what we're doing, really. We're figuring it out as we're going. I'm figuring out as I'm going, and I think that is like a really liberating thing to discover, because no one knows what they're doing.
Really don't. And also what's great too, and what I love, just going off of that, working with you, Lauren, was so refreshing, because not only did she have such a specific vision for what she wanted as a director, because she had written the script, she had like lived with the script, she had been in this role, essentially she allowed everyone to play within their own roles. Our DP was like creatively making decisions, obviously with Lauren, but it was like this free-flowing creative play that we got to do every single day. And I felt that way as an actor, and I think Amy felt that way. We all felt like every day when we came to work, it was like, we just get to play with our friends and be in boats and
freeze and get rained on.
and that too. But it felt like this sort of like, I don't know, it felt like very freeing. And Lauren was not only so specific about what she wanted, but gave us room to play within that. And that's why I think you are like one of the best directors I've ever worked with.
I'm so looking forward to seeing the buzz around the Navis build when word gets out. Congratulations to both of you, and thank you so much for sharing this time with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
That was great. Thanks so much, everybody.
Yeah, thanks
you. Kevin. You got everything you need?
Yep, all good here.
Okay, thank you both so much. That was amazing.
Okay,
yeah, thank
I'm so
you
happy we were
guys.
able to take it when you were together.
I know,
it made
it's
such a difference.
I love it. I haven't seen you forever. It's like June or wow. When's the last time I saw you? I don't even know.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
I don't even know. Okay, well, we'll send you all the things that we have on our end, so you have that to work with. And yeah, and thanks.
Lovely to meet you, Isabelle. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Keep doing. Oh wait, quit it.
We did it.